Vamos ouvir os ensinamentos da monja Zamba.
Many different conditions happened during my life that made me search for something that made sense in my life. When I was very young, when I was 13 and a half, I was completely paralyzed. I went through a kind of living death where I couldn't move any part of my body. I couldn't eat. I had tubes going in, tubes going out. And that kind of disease made me feel that I didn't want to live anymore. And then one woman who was also dying, she came to see me. She said, "Don't give up." She said, "Think of something positive to do with your life." And I said, if I ever recover from this disease, then I will give my life to helping others. And then from then on, they found a new drug, which I became the first experiment in England for this new drug. And I began to slowly recover. I began to slowly be able to move step by step. So I learned to walk again when I was 16 years old. And I then had to keep my promise, was I was going to give my life to helping others. So then the search began for something, something that I could do that could be of a profound benefit, not only for myself, but for others. And so then I went through many countries, many kinds of experiences, until I finally came to India, and I found some Tibetan masters. And it was through their living example that it inspired me that maybe I would find the answer in the Buddhist path. And the person who I met at that time, he was a monk. So I thought, maybe, I should become a Buddhist nun. Maybe that's the answer if I make a commitment. We don't really know how to find happiness. We don't even know what happiness is. We keep running after anything that looks good in our lives and running away from anything that looks bad. And we just keep going round in circles because we don't really understand the source of happiness or the source of unhappiness. So by working with one's own confusion, acknowledging that now the way we see life is confused and distorted, then we begin to get to the source of our problems. And then with working with the mind, working with mental processes, we then begin to see more clearly. And then we can find solutions. We can find solutions for political problems, social problems, health problems, emotional problems, whatever you want to call the problem. We begin to find solutions, not by looking outside, but by looking inside, by looking at how we create the problems in the first place. Well, first of all, you have to understand that there's two kinds of happiness in our life. And there's temporary happiness, and then there's what we call genuine happiness or definitive happiness, which is a state of well-being. So temporary happiness depends on certain conditions. And as long as those conditions last, then we feel good. But when the conditions change, then also our happiness begins to change also into some form of dissatisfaction. So the normal idea of happiness is really not what we call true happiness. It's just temporary alleviation of our dissatisfaction. It's, it just brings temporary relief from this constant underlying dissatisfaction that we have in our life, this feeling that something is missing, but we don't know what it is. Genuine happiness doesn't depend on any conditions, so it doesn't change. It's a state of being that we find within ourselves that doesn't depend on anything. And this is what we're all looking for. We're looking for this true nature of our consciousness, which in itself is wisdom and compassion and understanding, all these qualities that we aspire to. It's not that you have to eliminate the external conditions. You don't have to do that. But you have to understand that it can only bring temporary relief, temporary alleviation. This way of running after anything that looks good or anything that is pleasurable, it can only bring temporary results. You can't find genuine happiness, you can't find true happiness by depending on external things. You have to look inside. So we have to know where to look for the treasure. Now we think the treasure is something outside, so we never look inside, because our education system never tells us that the treasure, we already have the treasure. We think the treasure is missing, and if we get this, if we get this job, we get this salary, we have this kind of house and this kind of relationship, that's the answer to happiness. But it's not. To see that we don't have to believe everything that we think. Because now, as soon as we believe what we think, we react. Whereas if we really understand the thought process, we will see the thought process has no substance, it has no color, no form, there's nothing that you can hold. It's just thoughts, yes? But these thoughts control the way we see life. They make us have all the ups and downs in our life. When we think something positive, we feel good. When we think something negative, we feel bad. Yeah, it all relates to how we're thinking at that moment. So then, when you don't believe so much in what you're thinking, your mind becomes more calm. You begin to see more clearly. You're going, this is just a story I'm telling myself. This is just a thought. I don't have to believe this. Yeah. So then our heart begins to open more to maybe the true nature of what's actually happening. Yeah. My social programs was based on human development. So this project, it addresses environmental research, preservation. Number one, we've got to protect our environment. If we don't protect our environment, well, we're not going to have anywhere to live. Then we also have education. Our education system is not really working for us. It doesn't give us the information we need to find this genuine happiness. It just fits us into certain boxes in society, so we can function in society, but it doesn't help us really to understand happiness or unhappiness. It's just not part of the education system. So I'm trying to introduce different forms of education, so young people can find their own potential through creativity. And then after education, we also need health. So lots of alternative forms of medicine, different kinds of yoga and Tai Chi and herbal medicines and acupuncture. Okay, then we need training programs for the individual. A lot of our kids, they don't have skills. So very hard for them to find jobs. So if we give training programs for young people so that they learn different skills and they can contribute to society. One person can do this, another person can do that, and everybody feels like they're worthwhile. I think that we should all know that we have everything that we need to find genuine happiness in our life right now. We have the treasure. But at the moment, let me show you what happens to the treasure. All right, so imagine this is the treasure that you're looking for. Now, we can't see it, can we? Yes, you can't see the treasure. You have to believe when I tell you the treasure's there, it's always there. But it's hard to believe when everybody else is telling you the treasure is something outside. So slowly you have to understand how to find the treasure, and you begin to uncover what you've always had and what you always will have, which is genuine happiness. So then, wow, isn't that amazing? I have everything that I'm looking for. And that's the message.